So let's jump into our first demo. Temperature screening solutions with Bree I'm sorry, Bree. Hanrahan of Direct Strategic Accounts with IntraEdge. Bree, over to you.
Thanks so much. Not a problem. No one can really pronounce my name. So hi, everyone. My name is Bree Hanrahan. I'm Director of Strategic Accounts at IntraEdge. And I have the privilege to show you all our health check solutions today. As you know, companies are extremely eager to get back to business and open their doors. So we developed these solutions really as a way to help them comply with the new wellness checks and social distancing expectations. So before we get started, I thought we'd just show a quick video which highlights a great overview of the different health check options and shows the user experience for each of them.
You need to effectively get back to business, which is why we've created the Truyo Health Check Management Platform as part of your COVID-19 strategy. Our kiosk features temperature checking, customizable health questions, reporting, and alerts with over 100 integrations to HR, payroll, and access control systems. Janus is an enterprise-grade kiosk co-developed by Pyramid Computers and Truyo, and can be paired with either a sensor or a thermal camera for a highly accurate, fast, contactless temperature check. It's a simple 4-step process. First, the user is identified using a form of ID like a badge or license. Then the user scans the QR code on the screen to answer the health screening questions. This is followed by a temperature reading using the thermal camera. The outcome of the temperature reading will appear on the screen. A negative reading can trigger an email alert or access control system. Another option is QuickSense, a cost-effective, FDA-certified plug-and-play solution which reads temperatures from the wrist to maintain a contactless experience. It can be used with existing hardware such as a desktop or laptop computer or a kiosk that uses Windows 10. Find out more and get back to business safely with a health check management solution powered by Truyo.
Okay, so before we get started and talk a little bit about the health check solutions, I wanted to quickly give you guys a brief overview of IntraEdge, the company that developed these options, these solutions. So we've been in business about 18 years. We have about 1,400 employees deployed at some very large organizations around the world. You'll see some examples on the screen here. American Airlines, American Express, Nike, DHL, etc. So we do work predominantly in the security space and also do a lot of really complex IT integrations as well. And about 5 years ago with Intel, we co-developed a data privacy management platform called Truyo. And that's actually the software that runs behind the health check solutions you're going to see today. All right, and so there's a variety of different use cases that we developed the solution for. Hospitality, healthcare facilities, manufacturing facilities are definitely a common one, as well as some of the places we hope to return to someday very soon. Gyms, museums, retail, movie theaters, sporting events. So it's really designed to be able to cope with a very personal check-in experience, as well as being able to handle large throughputs of 900 plus people at a very large venue at scale. So designed to be able to meet both needs. Okay, let me introduce to you our state-of-the-art wellness and temperature check solution. On the right-hand side, you'll see our Janus kiosk, and it comes with 2 different options, both a thermal imaging camera as well as a wrist sensor. And then on the left, you'll see our QuickSense device. And this is a plug and play, a cost-effective wrist sense device that you can just plug in to any kind of existing hardware. So you can utilize a laptop or a desktop, as long as it has Windows 10 processor or higher. So again, this one's very cost-effective, and it's good for certain situations where maybe a kiosk might not be necessary. What I'm seeing with a lot of our current clients, perhaps like in a manufacturing facility, is they'll utilize the Janus kiosk at one of the larger entrances, maybe link it to a door access system, and then they'll use the QuickSense device at some of the smaller entrances or maybe just the smaller locations. So you can kind of mix and match both devices, just depending on what's a fit for your organization. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the hardware components in more detail. On this Janus kiosk with a thermal imaging camera right here on the top right, that's manufactured by FLIR. They're market leaders in this space, military grade technology. It's extremely accurate, self-calibrating, and you can be quite a distance away from the camera, about 3 to 4 feet. Below it is the printer, so you can print a thermal receipt or you can print a badge or a sticker. Below it is a magnetic and RFID reader, and then the barcode scanner. And then this is actually a touch screen device. So right now with COVID, people aren't really utilizing it that way, but in the future, you certainly can. Okay, let's walk through the 4-step check-in process. So the first step is identifying the person checking in. So we can integrate with your employee badge system. So you'd simply swipe your employee badge through the magnetic reader, or if you have an RFID card, you could just tap the card. If you're a guest, you can swipe your driver's license. And if you're in a ticketing scenario, we've got a barcode scanner as well. And then you can also manually enter the information, some kind of identification, maybe like an email address or date of birth or employee PIN. So you have those options to check in. And then you have the option to ask some additional health screening questions. We just have the standard set of questions from the CDC, like, have you been out of the state recently? Are you experiencing shortness of breath? A fairly simple set of questions. And you can send a link to the employees so they can answer these questions at home prior to going to the office. So let's say they don't answer them correctly, it saves them a trip. And then if they do answer the questions and they get to the office, they can completely skip this part of the process. They can also scan a QR code on the kiosk and answer the questions directly from their mobile device. And then lastly, they can answer it on the touch screen. So it's meant to be a touchless experience, but you certainly have the option to do it that way. And then is a temperature scan. So the example you'll see on the screen here is the thermal imaging camera, where you can do the wrist scan, but it's a fairly quick process. You can print the thermal receipt at this point, and it gives you the option to hold that thermal information for as long as you want it to be valid for. Currently, we're seeing our customers do it for about 24 hours, but you can set that for as short as period as you'd like. But that way, the employee goes off to lunch, they come back, they don't have to go through the whole process again. And then is the result, the yes or the no, did they pass or fail? You can print the thermal receipt at this point, and then you'll see right here a little QR code. So this is for the individual to be able to access the information that was held on them, such as the answers to their questions or their exact temperature. So you as the company and the organization, you don't have access to this information. You would just get the yes or the no. Did Bree Hanrahan enter the building or not? And that's really part of our offering, is to insulate you, the company, from gathering and retaining that sensitive data. So let's say the person doesn't answer the questions the way you wanted them to. We could send an email notification or a text message to whoever you'd like. Typically, we're seeing that being sent to someone in HR or perhaps a security guard. And then again, this could link to a door access system, so the door will not open if they had a high temperature. So that's the 4-step check-in process. Now I wanted to cover just some functionality of the software. So it's extremely customizable. You saw the first screen, you can have a very welcoming message with your company logo and really align it with your company's branding. You can customize those screening questions, have as many or as little as you want, or completely remove the screening questions. We can also integrate to a number of backend systems like your Active Directory or your HR system. A really common one, like I had mentioned earlier, is your door access system. So positive or negative reading would be linked to that, so the door wouldn't open. We've got multiple hardware options. So let's say a kiosk might not be a fit, then you can implement the WristSense QuickSense device somewhere. So you have the options to do that. And then it meets all the privacy and security and ADA compliance, which is a very big one. And then a huge one is that it's FDA certified. So a lot of different things that maybe some of the newer temperature sensing devices are still trying to figure out. They're very established parts of our solution. Here's some examples of different ways you can set up the kiosk. On the left, you'll see the pedestal. In the middle, you can mount it to a wall, or you can just set it on top of a countertop. This is the administrative portal, and this is where you'd be able to manage all of the different kiosks from one location. So you'd be able to see how many people entered a certain building, a certain amount of time, how many people had temperatures. This is where you'd be able to customize the temperature thresholds and set up those customized questions and do all the reporting from this. And then here's some common integrations that a lot of our clients have been utilizing. We're seeing a lot of Brevo, ADP, Workday, Active Directory integrations. We actually have over 100 pre-built connectors that we have built throughout the years. So if you have a system that's not on that list, we definitely have a professional services team that can build it for you. And then lastly, once COVID has passed, hopefully sooner than later, you can repurpose this kiosk for other things. We actually just built a visitor check-in solution, which comes with the kiosk. So you'd be able to check someone's temperature and then also check them in at the same time, notify the person that they're waiting in the waiting room. But you can utilize it for self-ordering, for wayfinding, for information, for surveys. So there's a lot of different uses for this particular kiosk in the future, not just for COVID. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I'm more than happy to answer any additional questions for you guys. If you'd like more information, feel free to go to our website. We have a ton of information there. You can fill out a demo request and we can schedule a call with you. And also we can send out a loaner unit for either the kiosk or for the QuickSense device if you'd like to test it out in your environment and see if it's a fit for you. And currently we're running into about a 2 to 4 week lead time for the kiosks to be delivered once you place an order. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit about our health check solutions. I'd like to leave the remainder of the time open for questions.
Great, and just a reminder, if you have any questions for Bree on this solution, feel free to type them into the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. Bree, just a question from me is, you talked about the 4-step process. How long does that typically take for an employee or a visitor to get through that 4 steps?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So typically, and it really kind of depends on whether or not you are asking those health screening questions, but typically going through that whole process takes anywhere between 8 and 10 seconds. So it's a fairly quick process.
Sure. And what facilities types are you seeing this most implemented in right now? Commercial office spaces, but is there other applications as well?
Yeah, we're seeing a big one with healthcare facilities and hospitals implementing this, as well as really large manufacturing facilities.
Wonderful. Again, just a reminder, type in any of your questions that you have. You talked about using FLIR technology for the thermal. That's all included as part of that's all included in the portal itself. That's not like an additional application.
So for the Janus kiosk, you have the option to pick between the thermal imaging camera, the FLIR camera, or a wrist sensor. So you would just pick one or the other.
Great. And another question is, can you use a tablet with your system?
Yes, you can. So as long as it has a Windows 10 processor or higher, you can certainly use a tablet.
Great. And then can you just talk a little bit more about, you were talking about you can include this with your access control or other systems. Can you just talk a little bit about that process and how easy it is to implement?
Sure. So we would integrate with your Active Directory solution or system. So that way we'd be able to figure out the person checking in, who they are, and link it to those people. The door access system, so that, as I mentioned, is a very common one. So we would set that up during the implementation of the deployment process. So ultimately, we would link with that door access system. So if you had a negative reading, it would lock and it would not open. The HR system is another common one, a time clock system. So ultimately, it can check in a person utilizing the HR system. So instead of doing the time stamping, it would check them in from that moment. So a lot of different options for integrating systems.
Perfect. And just, I think one final question, unless we get any more typed in. You said all of those questions right now they're standard to the current CDC questions, but those are all customizable as well, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So we just have a standard set of questions that are very, very straightforward that you guys probably see when you go and check in places. Have you been out of the state and country? Shortness of breath. You can completely remove the questions if you'd like to, but a lot of people find that that's a really an advantage to our platform is to ask those additional questions. You can ask 2 questions, you can ask 8 questions. It's really up to you.
Perfect. And we have another question. How is the recording information using HIPAA laws? Can you just talk about, how is that saved and regarding HIPAA?
Sure. So the really an important part of our offering is that we're insulating that company from having that data. This is actually hosted on our Azure platform. None of the data is stored on the kiosk. So you as the company don't have to worry about complying to that because you don't actually have that information. You just have the yes or the no.
Wonderful. Well, it looks like that's all the questions we have right now for you, Bree. Any final comments or thoughts for our audience?
No, that's all. I really appreciate your time. And again, if you'd like more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can schedule a quick call, show you a demonstration, and please go to the website to learn more.